be the light beam blue. So this is, let's say, the official Apple wallpaper for this iPhone model. If you're gonna rotate to the back, we're gonna see that we're gonna have those three lenses. Two of those are sharing the same label, so the same decal. This one will be different, and we also have the flash over there. There's also one more decal over here at the top. As you can see, that will also be added. You can find that over here on speaker mesh. And you also have the microphone out. Okay, so those are the decals of the model. Now, we can also use Fusion for various renders like this. As we can see, currently I am within the design workspace, but if I'm gonna swap to the render workspace, we're gonna see that the model will look different. So now those materials will be added within the render. But our objective is to have this model transfer within Blender and have it retexture over there. So to get started, I will swap it in Blender. I already exported the model as an OBJ, so the file format will be over here. We have iPhone 13 Pro OBJ. There's also the package OBJ, but for the case study, we're gonna make use of this one. So within Blender, I'm gonna go to File, afterwards Import. I'm gonna choose the Wavefront OBJ, and from the desktop, I will go to that folder, and I'm gonna select the iPhone 13 Pro OBJ. Now, I could scale this directly over here because we see this will be at a 1:1 scale, but considering that the model was created in Fusion, exported as an OBJ, we're gonna see that we're gonna need to have this rescaled. I'm just gonna import it like this, and I already see that the phone filled all the, let's say, the viewport. So I'm gonna zoom out a bit. I will also enable the shortcuts so you can easily follow along the clicks. Let me just slightly offset that like this. So if I will go to the top view and I will go with the measure tool, roughly from the top all the way to the bottom, you're gonna see that this will have around 145 meters. So that means we need to scale this down since it's scaled up by 1000. Therefore, with the element selected over here within the scene collection, I'm gonna press S for scale, and afterwards I will drag the mouse towards, so to the interior, and you're gonna see that currently this will be scaled by 0.6. You can see that at the top left corner. So I'm just gonna type in from the numpad 0.001. You can also use the top numbers for this. Afterwards I will press enter. And now you're gonna see that since this was shrinked by 1000 times, we can rapidly zoom into that by pressing the period on the numpad, and that will zoom us towards the selection, in this case the iPhone 13 Pro. Now the default cube from Blender, which has 2 meters, you can check the dimensions over here within the item. So with N you can open that ribbon again, we're gonna see the dimensions. I'm just gonna have that deleted. So this will be the case study model. If I'm gonna select it, underneath material, we're gonna have all those materials transferred from Fusion. As we can see over here, we have some stainless steel, we have some brass, some Sierra blue back panel for that. So there are a lot of texture that were transferred, but they will not be visible because within Fusion they are not, let's say, UV texture mapping. Is the same problem with keyshots. You can add the decals on the model, they will look great within the software, but when you have them exported to something universal like OBJ or FBX, they will not have UV mapping. So this is why if you're gonna model this in Blender, afterwards you can take it maybe to a website, to Unity, to a VR environment, and so on. So let's get started with the reference. This will be the reference photo. Now, in order to add the image at true scale, I will double click on this, and I'm gonna see that this image, so the resolution will be horizontal 1312 pixels and vertically 731. If you don't have Irfan View, I recommend, because this is an open source software for mostly for images. But even if I will just position the mouse over, Windows will tell me that the dimension of the file will be those. So in order to add this at the true scale, I'm going to create a plane with the same aspect ratio. So within Blender, I will press Alt-A to add. I'm going to add a mesh, which will be a plane. We're going to see that by default, the plane will have 2 meters. So I'm just going to add in 1.312, so like this. And the other value, let me check it again. It was 731. So I will just add 0.731. So this will be the plane. Now, in order to add the texture, we need to go within shading. So at the top, I'm going to activate the shading workbench. Afterwards, I can also zoom in over here. I can also press the numpad, period, again, that will zoom on selected. And at the bottom, I will create a new material. So this will be Principal BSDF, as we can see over here. Now, with the folder selected, I'm going to drag and drop the reference image. So have that added over here. And we just need to add the color to the base color of the material. And afterwards, you're going to see that the image will appear at the top. I'm going to go back to the layout. If for some reason within the layout you don't see the material, that is because you need to enable it at the top. So we have various shadings within Blender. The first one will be wireframe. As we can see, if I'm going to click on this, since the model was let's say model within Fusion, this has been exported as an OBJ. This will not be a polygonal model. As we can see, this is defined by triangles, so not polygons. If I'm going to go to the following one, this will be solid view. We're going to see the surfaces, but we won't have any materials. The following one will be materials. So we're going to have the materials added, but the scene will be lit. So we have lighting over here. And if I'm going to go a little bit forward, this will be rendered. And over here, we're going to have also the, let's say, the lighting within Blender. For this case study, since we are not going to have this fully set up for the render, we're mostly going to arrange the phone. I'm going to stick with the material one. Now, since we know that the phone is at the true scale, I'm going to scale the plane to match the size of the phone. So I'm going to press on 7 to see the top view. Afterwards, I will select the plane. I will press S for scaling, and I will move this down until the reference will be, let's say, similar to the font size. And afterwards, I will select it, press G, afterwards Y for the axis, and I'm going to slightly position it like this. So this is a good starting point. Afterwards, I will just select the phone and grab it on the Z-axis by pressing G, afterwards Z for Z-axis constraint, and I will position it over here at the top. Now, to get started with the textures, we can also make use of Blender Kit to rapidly add a material. Let's take a look at that. If you don't have Blender Kit installed, you can check that online. There are various videos regarding this. So I'm going to go to search for a material. I'm going to type in over here, let's say black. And we can see a wide variety of black materials. So this will be a black plastic, black nickel, rubber. I'm going to choose for something metallic. Like, for example, this black metal paint. In order to add it to your selected or desired element, you can drag and drop it. And now with the top of this line, you're going to select. So if I'm going to position it over here, this will be on that element. And we're gonna see, since this element is linked to others, so now that material is being downloaded, it should appear. So I drag and drop it exactly on those antennas. So that's not what I intended. I'm just gonna press Ctrl Z. I'm gonna search again for that same material. Okay, what are the odds of directly positioning that only on those small antennas? But as you can see, it can happen. So I'm gonna select the same material. I'm gonna leave it over here somewhere on the side because I know the phone doesn't have the antenna over there. And as you can see, that material has been added. Now, since the geometry has been imported from Fusion, some of the elements have been linked. As you can see, if I'm gonna rotate all the way to the bottom, also this camera bump that the iPhone has will have the same material added over there. If you want to isolate only a specific item, you can have that selected. Afterwards, you can press the slash button, but as we can see, all the geometry over here is connected. Therefore, the whole iPhone 3 model will be isolated like this. So in order to have this split into individual elements, we're gonna need, I'm gonna close this Blender kit so it doesn't occupy some of the top viewport. And with the model selected, I'm gonna press P. But before I will press P, we need to enter the edit mode. So currently we are in object mode. I'm gonna press Tab. Tab will take us to edit mode. You can also do that over here at the top. And within edit mode, I'm gonna press A. That will select everything within this phone model. Afterwards, I will press P. As you can see, P is a hotkey for separate. And we're gonna separate this. We can also do, let's say, selection, since everything is selected. But we can go also by loose parts in this case. And afterwards, we're gonna see that the phone will have multiple meshes over here. So we have the initial mesh named iPhone. Okay, so after we splitted the model, we're gonna see the iPhone 13 Pro. And we're gonna see all the elements over here. So this will be a small element over there from the lighting port. This will be a cutout at the bottom. And you're gonna see, for example, the button. This will be the screen, so 040 will be the screen of the phone. So all the elements will be individual now, so this as well. Now, if we have those splitted, we can now proceed to add some images over here. We can also change the material, since all those material from Fusion were added over here. Maybe for some reason we don't want a complex material like this black metal paint that has some white flakes. We can delete all the existing elements over here within the materials. So be sure to be within material properties and have all those deleted. And we can just create a new material with this selection. So iPhone 13 Pro 033. This will be the exterior of the phone. I'm gonna add a new material and we can just add a color. We can use the eyedropper and I'm gonna select this black element over there. And the other buttons and the camera bump will still have that same material, which we can further modify. So again, we have this black material. We can have all that deleted. I can select this. I know that this is material 002. I can call this black case. And I can have this reapplied over here. So I can have that selected. Over here I can type in black case. And we're going to see that the material that we already defined will be available over there. And again, over here I can add a new material. And this can be the black case. But I will have to delete all the other materials so that you're gonna have that as an active material. So as soon as that remains the only material for the selected model, you're gonna see that appear over there. I'm just gonna do that for all the camera bumps over here. So I'm gonna add for this one as well the black case. For the button, I'm gonna keep that blacker button just as let's say a reference. Now I will want to select everything over here and make a collection. So to do that, I'm gonna you have to rotate around the model, do a selection like this with a rectangle selection. If for some reason you don't have the rectangle selection, if you're gonna press W, this will cycle within all the available selections, but the most convenient is the rectangle selection. And with all those highlighted in orange, I'm gonna press M. This will add a new collection, and I'm gonna call this iPhone 1, since it will be the first out of the 5 that we're gonna align over here. Now I would like to have this rotated, therefore I will press R in order to rotate, afterwards Y for the axis, and I'm just gonna rotate this 180. You can go positive or negative, it will be the same. Now with the phone upside down like this, we can start adding the camera. So for this I'm gonna select for example this. Let's see exactly which camera is that. This is the ultra wide camera. So with that selected, I'm gonna go within the material. I'm gonna delete all the materials that were imported from Fusion, and I will create a new material. And with this new material selected, I will jump within the shading workbench. I'm also gonna zoom in over here. I will press the period in order to frame that selection. And at the bottom, since we know that this is the ultra wide, I'm gonna add this ultra wide PNG file for that. So with that selected, drag and drop it over here and have it link to the base color. And we're gonna see how that texture will appear over here. It will just slightly be on the right edge. And this is why we need to go to the UV mapping in order to have that aligned. So I'm gonna swap the workspace to the UV editing. Over here, by default, it will be zoom out somewhere around the camera. So I'm just gonna press the period button to zoom in over here. For some reason, it doesn't wanna zoom in, so I'll just use the scroll mouse button. I will also go over here, since this is the first time I'm entering the UV editing. This doesn't have viewport shading enabled, so move your mouse cursor at the top. You can use the scroll wheel in order to slide, and you need to activate the shading with material. Now I'm gonna press A. That will select everything over here, and as you can see, the texture that has been assigned will also appear, but we're gonna have the UV unwrapping groups positioned like this. So we could press U and have those recreated. We can go with the Smart TV projection that will recreate those, but we can use the pre-existing one that the software already imported from Fusion. We just need to address, let's say, the islands. So I'm gonna go over here on UV selection mode island, and by island this understands a group of UVs. For example, this is one island, this is another one. And if I'm gonna press G with this one selected and I'm gonna move it at the top, we're gonna see that this is the opposite face from the bottom. As we can see in real time, the texture isn't updating on the right. Therefore, I'm going to position this over there, and I will select the other island. And as soon as I will move this, we're going to see how this will center. So we're going to center it like, let's see how we can center this. We can fit that island over here, as we can see. And now if we want to make this larger or smaller, we can just press the S key, and we can either make it like this, or we can make the lens smaller. For this case study, I'm just gonna make it something like this, so that the blackness of the outside will be positioned like that. When you finish with the lens, you can just swap back to the layout, and we're gonna see how that texture will be fitted over there. And again, what is most importantly, if you're gonna work with a texture like this within Blender, even though within the software they look the same, let's say visually as in Fusion, so we have that detail over there, this cannot be exported visually to another software. This will only remain within Fusion. The same will be within Keyshot. But Blender, on the other hand, since this is UV editing, we can have this, for example, imported to Unreal Engine and create a digital copy over there. Now let's proceed with the other lenses. I'm going to select the next one at the top. Again, I'm going to delete over here all those existing materials. I will create a new one. I'm just going to check this. So this will be the telephoto. As we can see within this render from Apple, it should look like that. I'm going to add the telephoto something like this from this render. You can use your own. So back within Blender, with that selected, shading, we already have the material created. This will be material 003. You can also name that, just like we did with the case. If not, you can just leave it incremental. So with the color, I'm gonna add it to the base color. We're gonna see how that image will be appearing over here. And we're gonna go back to the UV editing. And now within the UV editing, we still have the last image added over here to the left side. But as soon as I will press A, which is select everything over here, this will be updated. So let's see, A, and we see now this has been updated for the selected elements. And the same workflow will work over here as well. I'm gonna select this island, I'm gonna grab it, and we're gonna see that this is the one that we wanna modify. So I'm just gonna slightly scale this in. We're gonna swap between scaling and grabbing over here in order to fit it. Since this has a secondary ring, I'm just gonna make it smaller in order to not have that clipped within the texture, so something like this. And at the end, we can go back to the layout and we're gonna have that positioned. So we see that the telephoto is smaller. Even if we're gonna check over here, we're gonna see that this over here within their official render, let's say the size is again smaller compared to this one. So that shouldn't be a problem. And now we have the last one, the third one, that we're gonna add, which is this one. I will have all those deleted. I will create a new one. Go back to the shading, and for this I'm going to use the wide texture. So the same workflow will apply over here as well. And now we just need to adjust the UV editing. I'm going to press A to select everything, grab that island. You're going to see that it won't be that one, the one underneath. And I'm just going to slightly scale this up so that the lens will be a little bit smaller, and I'm gonna have some more black section around that. Okay, so we address that. We can also address the screen, but for those that will be, let's say, rotated like this, we don't gonna add a screen, we're just gonna add a material for that. Now I will select the outer ring of those lenses, and if I'm gonna go back to the layout, you're gonna see the material. I'm gonna have that deleted. You can also delete all the materials at the start, since all will be recreated. So for this, I will create a new material. I will go for the base color, and I will pick that black. We're gonna see that there are slightly different differences. Even though I had this picked with the eyedropper, this is more black than this one. So we can always increase, for example, the roughness. In this case, this is also set to specular, so I'm gonna change the specular value like that. Or we can always add more darkness to that by lowering this. So you can adjust that as you want to. Now it has this bluish look that I want to change. I'm gonna go for something more black. I'm gonna call this lens back. So let me add that S as well. And I'm gonna change this material to the other elements as well. So with that selected, go to lens back. The same will be over here. Again, for import elements like this, it's better to delete all the materials initially, and afterwards you won't have to delete those. So let me see over here that outer ring should be this one, lens back. Okay, and afterwards for the back material, I will also change this. So have all those deleted, create a new one. I will grab this gray, and afterwards we can increase maybe the metallic. We can also increase, in this case, the roughness. As we can see, if I'm going to take the roughness all the way to 0, we're going to have a reflections, and in this case we're going to have some trees and a sky. This is because by default Blender has within the shading this set as a HDRI image for the environment, and all the reflections will be casted upon the model, so reflected over there. So keep that in mind, and also we don't want this to be that rough. So I'm going to move the slider something like 0.25, and I'm just going to add more black to that, so something like this. Now we see that the Apple logo will pop out more, and we can make this some gray metallic. This is where I encourage you to test and do your own materials, something like that. Over here, this is cut in half because there's a specular environment rotated at the top, but it's the same material. This is from the environment reflection over there. I'm just gonna make this something gray like that, and for the small leaf I will want the same 06 material that I created recently. I will just have all those deleted minus the 006 material. And now, since we have this phone editor collection, which is this one, I can have this copied. I can do a selection. I'm just gonna move it on the x-axis over there, and now I have the possibility to duplicate the object or to duplicate linked. As we can see, within duplicate objects, this will duplicate selected objects and also move them. And the second one will be duplicate linked. We see that duplicate the selected objects but not their object data and move them. So I'm gonna go with duplicate link in this case. And with the second one, I'm just gonna press X to have it constrained. I will position it over here, and we're gonna see how we have those two elements. Now they are all still within the same collection, which is iPhone 1. I can select everything over here, press M, add a new collection, and this will be everything regarding the second iPhone. Now we can rapidly just hide only one. We can also add those to various layers. And with this selected, we're gonna see that if I'm gonna change the material of both will be changed. So we still need to break some relations between those. So I'm gonna go to Object, Relations, Single User, and I'm gonna choose Material. I will do the same for this one. So Relations, material. And now I want this to be, let's say, the second one with that selected. I'm gonna delete that. See that both of those were deleted. So let me just check if those relations will be properly deleted. Okay, I'm just gonna create, name this differently then. I'm just gonna call this golden case. As you can see, this will be material 05 and this will now be, let's see, golden case. So those are still linked. Let me see exactly. Then we should have made a duplicate using the duplicate object like this, and now grab X, so with everything over here selected, duplicate objects, grab on X, move it over there, and if I will delete this material, only this one will be deleted. Yeah, so when we made that copy, we should have went with duplicate objects, not duplicate linked. Then they won't be linked. So we can just have this deleted. We can have that selected again, move it back, and yeah, this will now be iPhone 2, so we no longer need to create that again. And with this material selection selected, since I already deleted, I'm going to create a new one, and I will choose a different color, which will be this one. We can add some specular to that, or we can remove some of the roughness. And also for the back, if I'm gonna have that deleted, I will create a new one. I will pick this color. Let's see if I will increase that saturation, this will be more gold-like. And you can also go and add also the decal for the flash that we have over there. Now, what I wanna also present within this video is how we're gonna add that blue background for the phone. So I'm gonna select this phone now, and I'm gonna duplicate this, have it constrain on the X, and move everything to iPhone, for example, 3. I will want to rotate this, so I will press R, afterwards Y, move it 180 degrees, and then slightly move it to the left side. And now for the screen, I will add that background, so it will be the same workflow like with the lenses. Have that selected, delete all the existing elements, create a new one, go to shading. Afterwards, I'm gonna drag and drop this, link it to the base color. And as you're gonna see, this will repeat multiple times over here, since this is set to linear, flat, and also repeat. This won't affect us because we are gonna go back to UV editing, and we're gonna press A to select everything regarding that screen. And we're just gonna need to adjust this over there. So I'm gonna select this. If I will move it, this will be the island that will influence the texture. So have that scaled. Have that scaled and deform on the x-axis, so make it wider. Afterwards, scale everything. And now we're gonna reposition this and have it rescaled. So let's see. It's important that we don't have this clipping on the sides. So that means that we're gonna need to make this within the interior of the photo. So something like this. As we can see, we have that small distance to the left, to the right, and the texture will look like this for the background. And if you want to, you can create another copy of this. Again, we're going to use the Shift D to duplicate this, and we can add the iPhone 14 background for this one. So have that material deleted, create a new one, go to shading, and from the reference files we can use the iPhone texture, 14 texture, add that to the base color. We're gonna see how that will position by default, and we're gonna need to go to the UV rating, select everything, and we're gonna have to align this better. That means I will select this island. So as you can see, we're gonna have to rotate this. So press R, rotate it 90 degrees, have it scaled. Now we see that this is not properly aligned. So I'm gonna rotate it once again like this, minus 90 degrees. And afterwards we can just scale it on the Z-axis. Now if you have some odd looking UVs like this, we can just recreate those. So I'm gonna go over here, press U for UV mapping, go to Smart UV Projection, and slightly increase the island margin for this, and afterwards press OK. And Blender will have those recreated, and as we can see, this is the back. I'm gonna position it again somewhere outside, and now this texture will be properly aligned. So let's see how this will look. So it's flipped up. We see that those should be positioned at the top. So just have the texture rotated minus 180 positive, and afterwards have it a little bit scaled inwards, and we're just gonna reposition this. So I want to make sure that the battery will be visible over there, the Wi-Fi. So like this should be decent. If you want a little bit more background, you can just select this and slightly move it and scale it, but really small amount. You can type in 1.005. This will just slightly increase it. Do that once again. So 1.01. As you can see, now we have a little bit more background to the left and to the right for the camera and the call button. So that's pretty much positioned. Now I encourage you to do a layout like that within the reference. That means you're gonna select the phone. To do that, you can do a rectangle selection like this, have everything rotated on the y-axis, for example 10 degrees, and afterwards select the following phone, have this again rotated on the y-axis 10 degrees, and afterwards just position it a little bit over. Now we are in perspective view. If you want to swap to orthographic, you can press 5, afterwards 1, and you're gonna see how those phones will align. You can always grab it and slightly reposition that. And I encourage you to do the white phone and the following one as well with those two, and have them positioned over here. So I hope that you find this video useful. I will position a similar video over here to the left and a subscribe button to the right. So thanks for watching. See you in the next video.